Hi everyone, welcome back for week number 7. 2 weeks ago, once this week is done. I'm sure you're all pretty excited for the end of class. This is just a really short video to go over a bit about what's due this week. I'm recording it Saturday, the 18th at 1. I'm going to make this all live in moments when this is done. Let me just go through what's expected of you this week a little bit. So there are 4 lecture videos, which I know is kind of a lot, and in order to kind of give you time, it runs about just under an hour. I've reduced kind of the score that you need in learning curve. So learning curve should take you a little bit less time, and I think the summative quiz should go pretty quickly too. So you've got 4 lectures in addition to reading chapter 20 in the textbook. The PowerPoint that the lectures correspond to is available right here. Let's open up your primary source discussion. So I'm having you read, and I'm pulling out my hard copy of the textbook right now just to make sure. I'm having you, per the syllabus, look at primary source 20.3, which is available on pages 914 and 915. It's an image, so don't worry, there's not much reading to do with this one. It's an image, and I've got the question posed to you right here. I actually borrowed one, slightly tweaked it, but I borrowed a question from the textbook because I think it's a good one. In order to really answer the question, you have to look at the image that is source 20.3, but you also have to read the source that comes before it, which are excerpts from Hitler's Mein Kampf, which you can find on page 913 and 914. That's source 20.2. The instructions are here. And basically, I'm asking you to tell me a little bit about how the image, propaganda, how the propaganda that was created under the Nazi Party, this picture, Der ewige Jude, which is the eternal Jew in German, how that image is an embodiment of what Hitler kind of explains and how he explains his anti-Semitism in Mein Kampf. I'm not trying to give him any credence here. He's a horrible man with horrible ideas and responsible for genocide that hadn't really been seen on that scale since the Atlantic slave trade, and which was over a much larger period of time. It's important to recognize kind of how Hitler developed his anti-Semitic ideas and then how the Nazi Party implemented them through propaganda. And, I think that this is a really useful exercise in having us learn a little bit how to evaluate propaganda, right? And what the dangers of fascism and dictatorship can be, especially to groups of targeted people. So that's your primary source discussion. You don't need to respond to other people's, but I've been watching some of you like to, and I think it's great. I think you pose a lot of really good ideas, and if something someone says you totally agree with or disagree with or want to share some ideas or spread some light on, please, by all means, go ahead and do that. So that's your primary source discussion. Shouldn't need more than a paragraph or two to fully explain your answer to that question. And then let's just scroll down. Here is your week 7 response. So I've begun kind of looking at your responses for week 6, and I like them, I think, because my question was pretty straightforward. So when I formulated this question, I was again trying to be pretty straightforward, but I think actually got a little bit complicated. But if you watch the lectures and read the textbook, it shouldn't be that much of a challenge for you. My question is, explain how the world order, both socially and politically, and if you watch especially lecture number 4, but it doesn't make sense if you don't watch the other ones, that'll become a little bit more apparent what I mean by socially and politically. Explain how the world order, both socially and politically, was so radically different in 1945 from what it had been in 1914. Be sure to also explain why the order had changed so radically. And I give you a little bit more explanation of what I mean by order and how you should think about the orientation of the world pre and post 1945. Again, 1 to 2 page response for that should suffice in proper answers, for a proper answer. So just to go over that again, you've got chapter 20 to read in the textbook, the corresponding learning curve and summative quiz with that as well. You've got 4 lectures. The first one, which looks a little bit about the world in 1914, what it looked like. Was there really a peace between 1815 and 1914? Lecture 2 looks at the First World War, how it was so radically different from other wars. Lecture 3 talks about the interwar period. How did the end of the First World War, the Treaty of Versailles in 1918, how did the Treaty of Versailles help create Hitler and therefore the Second World War? And should we view the First World War and the Second World War as inherently linked? And then lecture 4, which I said will help you a lot with the weekly response. How was the world in 1945 so different from 1914 and why was this world so different. So I look forward to both the primary source discussions and the weekly response post, and I will get your grades back to you shortly after those are submitted, Friday at 5 p.m. And then we move into week 8, our final week. Take a look at your syllabus too. I know I've cut some things out. If it doesn't appear here on the Canvas, then you don't have to do it. There was a podcast that was supposed to come this week, and I think there was another video that was supposed to be in week 6. I cut those out just because I've given you so much. I can't take up 4 hours of your time with listening and watching and reading. I know that that's too much. Reading a textbook chapter and taking proper notes should take you about an hour, maybe a little more. Completing the lectures, again, take you about an hour, maybe a little more. And then doing all of the work that's required, probably about an hour as well. So you'll notice that that breaks down into about 3 hours, which is what your credit requirement is for the course. So I try to keep all weeks to about 3 hours. I know some go a little bit over, but I augment those by some going a little bit less. Like I said, take a look at your syllabus. You'll notice next week, no learning curve, no summative quiz. Make sure you check out my video for paper number 2, which is also assigned. If you have any questions, email me or comment in the announcements so everyone can see. And again, I look forward to reading your responses for this week.